Gurudev. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivacharya Aswatra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charna Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samved Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. So, welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class at Sri Radha Gopinath Temple in Sydney, Australia. As you can see, that we are observing social distancing and regulations as given by our government, Australian government, and therefore no one is allowed in the temple at the moment because the temple is closed. So we have very minimum devotees in the operations of the temple. So the temple is running very smoothly and very nicely, and the deities are stunningly beautiful, gorgeous as usual. Hopefully, when this lockdown will be over soon, so that we can all see you back in the temple. But in the meantime, thank you for attending online, and thank you for your nice feedback last week. There were some very nice comments. I hope to be of regular service to you in this manner, Radha Gopinath willing. So this morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nasta Prayashu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Okay, so we'll read text 15. Sa vai Bhagavata Raja Pandavyo Maharatha Balakridana Kai Kridan Krishna Kridam Ya Adate Sa vai Bhagavato Raja Pandavyo Maharatha Balakridana Kai Kridan Krishna Kridam Ya Adate Sa vai Bhagavato Raja Pandavyo Maharatha Balakridana Kai Kridan Krishna kridam ya adate. So word for word, sa, he, very certainly, Bhagavata, a great devotee of the Lord, Raja, Maharaja Parikshit, Pandavyo, grandson of the Pandavas, Maharataha, a great fighter, Bala, while a child, Kridanakai, with play dolls, Kridan, playing, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Kridam, activities, Ya, who, Adate, accepted. So we've got the translation here and the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the translation is, Maharaj Parikshit, the grandson of the Pandavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Krishna by imitating the worship of the family deity. So the purport, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that even a person who has failed in the proper discharge of yoga practice is given a chance to take birth in the house of devout Brahmins or in the houses of rich men like Kshatriya kings or rich merchants. So, if you happen to be born in the Brahmins, you've been given a really nice chance by Lord Krishna. So our devotee kids are very lucky, very, very lucky. But Maharaj Parikshit was more than that because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth. And as such, he took his birth in an imperial family of Kurus, especially that of the Pandavas. So from the very beginning of his childhood, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Krishna in his own family. Some of us are not so lucky, we have to work for that. So that we can be of some service to Lord Krishna. We work on that, we realize later on that that's the way. So the Pandavas, all being devotees of the Lord, certainly venerated family deities in the royal palace for worship. Children who appear in such families, fortunately, generally imitate such worship of the deities, even in the way of childhood play. By the grace of Lord Krishna, we had the chance of being born in the Vaishnava family. This is Srila Prabhupada who's saying this. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada had the chance of being born in a Vaishnava family. And he says, in our childhood, we imitated the worship of Lord Krishna by imitating our father. So Srila Prabhupada used to imitate his father. Our father encouraged us in all respects to observe all functions such as the Rath Yatra and the Dola Yatra ceremonies. And he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasada to us children and our friends. Hence, we've got prasad distribution in ISKCON. Just look at the results of what a child learns. Right now, our prasad distribution, I was looking at a documentary, film on online. We are distributing prasad in India by thousands and thousands. Right now in Mumbai, in Bangalore, in Dwarka, in Mayapur, it's just amazing. Right now, we need prasad distribution, and that's happening. And Srila Prabhupada learned this from his father. He says here that his father used to spend money liberally for distributing prasad to us children and our friends. And he says, our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspirations from his great Vaishnava father. So, who was Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master? He was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And his father was a great Vaishnava father, Thakur Bhakti Vinoda. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. The celebrated Mirabai was a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna. So here you've got a lady devotee who's mentioned here, that she's a very great devotee. She's Mirabai. She was a staunch devotee of Lord Krishna as the great lifter of Govardhan hill. So she used to worship Giridhari. The life history of many such devotees is almost the same because there is always a symmetry between the early lives of all great devotees of the Lord. According to Jiva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit must have heard about the childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna at Vrindavan, for he used to imitate the pastimes with his young playmates. But according to Sridhar Swami, Maharaj Parikshit used to imitate the worship of the family deity by elderly members. So we've got two different theories. Jiva Goswami says Parikshit Maharaj must have heard. So through hearing, and here Sridhar Maharaj Swami is saying not by hearing, but Parikshit Maharaj used to observe by looking. So by watching his family worship the family deity of elderly members, by elderly members. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he also confirms what Jiva Goswami has said. So anyway, accepting either of them, Maharaj Parikshit was naturally inclined to Lord Krishna from his childhood, early childhood, which really means here that we must be able to listen to the pastimes of the Lord, but we also must be able to observe as children, we must be able to observe our children practicing bhakti, worship. So either or both is really good from childhood. So he might have imitated either of the above mentioned activities, and all of them establish his great devotion from his very childhood, a symptom of Mahabhagavata. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nitya Siddhas. Hare Krishna. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nitya Siddhas, or souls liberated from birth. So they are not ordinary souls. They are already liberated. But there are others also who may not be liberated from birth, but who develop a tendency for devotional service by association. And they are called sadhana siddhas. There is no difference between the two in the ultimate issue. And so the conclusion is that everyone can become a sadhana siddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by association with the pure devotees. The concrete example is our great spiritual master, Sri Narad Muni. In his previous life, he was a simple boy of a maid servant. But through association with great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord, of his own standard, unique in the history of devotional service. So, that concludes our purport. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vande Ham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutle Srimate Bir Krishna Goswami Niti Namne Namo Hamsa Nikashaya Prabhupada Priyayate Shuddha Shuddhi Nishtabhem Tasya Bhakya Nuvadine. So, this is a very nice shlok also. It's talking about devotional service and how we evolve. Last week we had the class that I had with you. In that class, we discussed a little bit about, at length, what should a person do when they are on the threshold of death. This is the question that Maharaj Parikshit, because he was cursed to die, in 7 days he asked his spiritual master, which he accepted Srila Sukadev Goswami as his spiritual master at the time for guidance. And Sukadev Goswami related the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are reading today. So we had concluded that a person who's in the threshold of death must take up worship or bhakti of Hari or Sri Vishnu or Lord Krishna. And the way to do it in this age is through chanting and hearing. Chanting is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And not just simply chanting like a robot. We need to develop our chanting to quality chanting, so that we can get purified, our hearts get purified, our senses get purified, our mind gets purified, and everything gets engaged in Lord Krishna's service. But why do we want this purification? Is basically, it gives us a ticket back to Godhead, back to the kingdom of Lord Krishna. And why do we want to go there? Is basically because we don't want to be born again. As you can see, what's happening out there at the moment, there's I didn't want to talk about coronavirus too much, because there's everyone everywhere is talking about it. I'm pretty sure everybody has really heard quite a lot and enough about it. But this is just an example. You really don't want to live in a place where all these things are happening. So you don't really want to come back, be born again. Say that you died today. And because you had not taken up bhakti or Krishna conscious so seriously, you're bound to take up another body and come right back. Who knows at what body? It depends on what you've been doing all your life and the desires that you harbor in your heart. A body is being prepared for you. So the devotees of Lord Krishna are quite smart. They chant continuously. And we had talked about this a little bit. Chanting continuously without fail actually eradicates your karma of the past lives. So you are nullifying the effects of your karma. There is no result. And as long as you live, you must chant, because who knows when death knocks at your door. And you have got so much karma, you have not chanted, and so you have not nullified the effects. Yamaraj will prepare a body for you. So that's what we discussed. And with this purification, there was an important ingredient that we discussed, that was a compassion. And because we are Brahmins, we need to be able to pray for all those who are suffering, the nurses, the doctors, who are helping everyone recover. We need to pray for them too. But it is predicted that next year there will be food shortage, because not at the moment, everybody's hoarding food, but the results of all this lockdown, farmers are maybe stopped from farming, and there will be food shortage in the next year or the next couple of years. So for the world to get back up on its feet, it will be a couple of years. So there are lots of things happening there, and you don't want to be born again. So the only way, the solution is chanting the names of the Lord, and that comes through the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And once you actually qualify, so it's quite a bit of a process. First you take up bhakti, then you start chanting, then you have this quality chanting, then you purify yourself, then you get a ticket to back to Godhead, but you're still living, and then you have to develop compassion and pray for others. In other words, there's quite a lot of things that's there in the list, in the checklist. And one of them, and this is what this chapter is all about, that we didn't really touch on last week. I didn't have the time, and I thought it's very important to hear about chanting first before we touch on this, is devotional service. Actually, I was listening to another class by His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he stressed on this point, devotional service. So I'm going to be using a few points that I had heard from his class, because he is a very inspiring Guru Maharaj, very motivating, and I take his words to be like the spiritual law, and his class was quite interesting. He talked about taking up devotional service, but he talked a little bit about who Maharaj Parikshit was, and he said he's a Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means someone who is arranged by Lord Krishna to come down and help everyone. and basically deliver everyone, and as a well-wisher of the souls. So Maharaj Parikshit, he was already a liberated soul. He was so great. He didn't have to be killed, or in 7 days. He could just nullify that. He had enough the power, the spiritual power, to stop this. But he didn't, and he took this opportunity to listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is going on even up till today, and it's delivering us. So he was basically very compassionate. The word that we are looking for is compassionate for the fallen souls, which is us today. And that's Nitya Siddha. Lord Krishna arranges for such souls to be delivered, to be brought to this planet so that they can deliver us. And that's because why would Krishna do that? Because we are doing all this karma and we need to bear the fruits of it. So in other words, why would Krishna forgive us for our sins, basically? It's because he is very compassionate himself. He is Karuna Sindhu. His compassion personified. And he knows that we are fallen souls and we are struggling, and he sends somebody to help us. And he doesn't just send one person, he sends devotees by the waves. There was Lord Jesus Christ, there is Maharaj Parikshit, as we are talking about, but most of all in our day and age, it's Srila Prabhupada. They basically sent here not for their enjoyment or for their deliverance. They're already liberated. They don't need to be delivered. They're here to actually deliver us. And this is, the material ocean is very, very dangerous place. We can easily get tangled up on it. Why did we end up in the material ocean in the first place? Is because we wanted to deviate from the bhakti of Lord Krishna. Our original constitution is to be with Krishna, and we decided to do some wrong things. So we went away from Krishna and we decided to be born here. And we decided to be born here because we want to enjoy. We want to enjoy independently. And in the beginning we do. There's so many nice things out there, so we enjoy. And then we find that the enjoyment is quite temporary. And in the end we find out that the price we have to pay for this enjoyment is actually a little too much. And what happens is we are in misery after that. So then we call out to the Lord, help us, Krishna, help us. We are suffering, we are dying, we are getting old, we are getting a virus. I've got a lovely house, I've got a beautiful wife or husband, I've got beautiful children, but look at what they're doing to me, and this world is such a bad and evil place, and all these kind of things. I'm suffering. So then Krishna says, but it was your choice. He doesn't say it was your choice to come down here. But he says, okay, I'll help you. I'll send the Srimad Bhagavatam, who was, which was a result of Parikshit Maharaj's predicament. Or I'll send you Srila Prabhupada. So there is obviously the idea, basically the 100% guarantee that you will be delivered through chanting and hearing. But here Tamal Krishna Maharaj adds on a little bit more, and he says the easiest, the simple way, the simple solution to getting out of this material suffering that we are having is through devotional service. That's the simple solution. Devotional service to who? Devotional service to Lord Krishna. Why are we wanting to have this devotional service is to transcend or to cross the material ocean. Basically, material ocean is the enjoyment of material senses, which in the end gives us pain and suffering. So the idea is to bypass. So the idea is to bypass the enjoyment of material enjoyment, transcend it, and skip straight to spiritual life, and that is done through devotional service. All your senses basically are not for your personal enjoyment, then it becomes an instrument in the service of Lord Krishna. So here we are talking about devotional service, and how to do that. There are many ways. I've written some points down here. Obviously, in order to be of service, like for example, you are going to be one of those nurses in the hospital. That's a service that you are doing as a healthcare worker. And so this service, you need to learn about it. You need to be able to have to be a servant in order to serve. So devotional service itself, it means that you are a servant. In other words, the opposite of that, the negative side of it is you can't lord over everything. In other words, you can't be the boss. You can't, dictate how you serve. Because service really means you are a servant. You are acting on as Lord Krishna as your master, and you are the servant. So then the question arises, well, Lord Krishna is not here physically, he doesn't talk to us, so how can we actually determine what he's trying to instruct to us, and how can we relate to him as a master if he's not there? Well, the instructions are given by Srila Prabhupada in his books. And if you are a surrendered soul, then surrender, that's another actually important point here. You need to be surrendered in order to be a servant. You say, okay, well, I agree to serve. So you got to be surrendered first. Who do you surrender to? First, you obviously will surrender to Krishna, but you have to be in a practical sense, you have to surrender to the representative of Krishna. And the representative of Krishna is Srila Prabhupada and your spiritual master. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj was speaking at length about surrender to the spiritual master. I believe it would be through his own personal experience, because he was the right-hand man, basically, of Srila Prabhupada. His service to Srila Prabhupada is legendary, and he talked at length about the surrender to his own spiritual master. And he mentioned there that we cannot be independent, and what the spiritual master instructs, you must take without question. Of course, he has to be a bona fide representative of Sri Krishna, of our ISKCON sannyasis, our Maharajas are all bona fide. So what they say is as good as Lord Krishna giving that instruction. And in there, Tamal Krishna Maharaj had said that sometimes the spiritual master realizes that the disciple wants to do his own thing, go his own way. So the spiritual master will let them, just to teach them a lesson. I suspected that was he was speaking from his personal experience. And then he said, well, the disciple goes away and does his own thing in his own way without the instruction of the spiritual master, and he ends up in a mess. He gets into a mess. And then he realizes, oh, well, I've gotten into a mess. How do I get out of this? And then you go back to your spiritual master and say, well, tell me what to do now. How do I get out of this mess? So sometimes the spiritual master might let you do your own thing just for you to realize that go and realize your mistakes and come back. So this is the surrender bit that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was talking about. We need to be able to surrender to that level where we can serve our gurus and our Lord Krishna unconditionally. And so that was one important ingredient, is surrender. Obviously take up devotional service, but have this service attitude. In that regard, the service attitude, the story he related, Tamal Krishna Maharaj related, was that he was once traveling in a plane somewhere, and he was the last person to get on board, and obviously everybody was seated, and it was so cram-packed with people. He basically had to take the last seat in the plane, and so he was jammed between two passengers in the middle row. There was somebody sitting in the window and somebody in the aisle. He was right in the middle, and he said, I didn't have space to put my own bag. He couldn't find space to put his bag. So, what happened was, the passenger who was sitting near the window looked at Tamal Krishna Maharaj and said, let me help you with your bags. So he actually helped to place the bags. And then he also, because the seat belts was something new, a new way of adjusting. So it wasn't the usual seat belt. They had made some improvements or changes. So he had problems with his seat belt. So the same person next to him near the window decided to help him with the seat belt. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj was observing him, and then he realized there's something special about this person. There is something special about this person. And what was that? It was because this person was unconditionally serving him. Let me put your bags, let me help you with the seat belt. So then he asked this person, who are you? Where are you going? And he said, well, I'm going to such and such place, and I am a minister of the church. And that time it dawned on him. So he said, he said, I knew you were somebody special because of the way you are serving, you're helping me. That service attitude. And the response that he got from the person who was sitting near the window was, I do it without thinking. I just thought you needed help, so I just did it. I wasn't thinking about it. So in other words, your service attitude is not something artificial. It needs to come without thinking. It needs to be there. You need to be helpful. It doesn't really matter your service attitude to the altar or to the devotees in the temple. It was somebody just random sitting on a plane next to you. So that service attitude, and through that service attitude, you can. That's an ingredient basically for devotional service. So that was one of the important things about devotional service. You need to be surrendered. You need to have a service attitude. Now, what is the opposite of devotional service or service attitude is that you don't want to do devotional service. You get tired of it. So there are instances that we hear that people kind of drop devotional service. They don't want to serve anyone. They don't want to be kind and compassionate. They've just kind of had enough. Why they want to stop is because they want to go back to material enjoyment. So there is this in the same class. Tamal Krishna Maharaj mentioned somebody who was a devotee. I think it was one of his god brothers. You have to check on that. But there's certainly a devotee committed suicide. And he questioned Srila Prabhupada. He said, Srila Prabhupada, why did this devotee commit suicide? And Srila Prabhupada's answer was, this person is tired, must have been tired of devotional service. So what does that actually tell us? Tell us is that happiness in material enjoyment is there for a fleeting moment, but happiness in devotional service is a lifetime, eternity, till eternity. As long as we continue to do devotional service, we are happy. So this person must have gotten tired of devotional service, therefore ended up being unhappy, therefore committed suicide. Underlying reasons for suicide, people are basically they are not happy. Generally, they are not happy about the way things are going, and they see no way out, so they commit suicide. So any suicidal person out there, involve yourself in devotional service. What is devotional service? Is worship of Krishna. You can do any service that is in the name of Lord Krishna. In other words, everything you do is in the name of Lord Krishna. Whether you are earning outside, or whether you're not earning, you are serving in the temple, or you are simply serving at home. You are singing, you are preaching, you are distributing books, or you are simply at home. You've got an altar, you read Srila Prabhupada's books. These are all devotional service. You perfect yourself. And you'll be happy in that. So, and then there is one other very important ingredient in this devotional service. So we've got service attitude, we've got surrender. We've also got something very important, which is called humility. And humility is something that is kind of hard to come by. But it is very important. If you want to be a servant, you've got to be humble. You've got to accept Lord Krishna as as the master. So there's a nice story that I've come across where Lord Krishna actually teaches one of his devotees about humility. It's a very nice story, and I'm going to pre-ask this question while I'm talking. Sometimes, in order to make a person humble, Krishna teaches them a lesson. So there are many stories, but in this particular story, Krishna, in one of his incarnations, literally slaps a person. So my question to you is, can you think of that pastime where Lord Krishna slaps his much beloved devotee in one of his incarnations to teach them a lesson about humility? Can you think of this pastime where Lord Krishna in one of his incarnations literally slaps his beloved devotee? This is a very high level devotee, not ordinary. Very, very elevated spiritual soul gets a slap from Krishna. Not just a slap, few slaps. And Lord Balram is in this Leela also. Can you think of what this pastime was? While you're thinking about it, I'll open my book, and because I want to read this this pastime out to you. It's a very nice pastime. I'm talking too much. So, did you come up with an answer? Okay, so I'll reveal what that answer is. That incarnation of Lord Krishna was in the form of Lord Chaitanya, and obviously Balram is Lord Nityananda. And the slaps that they gave was to one of the very highly elevated devotees. His name was Punrik Vidyanidhi. And who's Punrik Vidyanidhi? Punrik Vidyanidhi is the incarnation of Vrishabhanu. Vrishabhanu is Srimati Radharani's father in the Vrindavan pastimes. So, can you imagine Lord Krishna slapping the father of Srimati Radharani? What did he ever do to deserve those slaps? So it's a very interesting story. It's from Chaitanya Bhagavata, Antya Leela, if you want to have a reference. Chaitanya Bhagavata in Antya Leela, chapter 3.10. And the story goes, well, Pundarik Vidyanidhi obviously will be a highly elevated soul, and he'd be a very great devotee of Lord Krishna. And he was a very rich man. He was in opulence, a lot of opulence. So does that mean his opulence was making him proud, not humble? No. Actually, he could take it or leave it, his opulence. He didn't care about his opulence. He was that great a devotee. There are many devotees actually out there who are quite rich, and they're not proud at all because they know their opulence has been given to them by Krishna for a reason, to go out there and use it for Krishna. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi also, he was very rich. He had a very nice house, and he used to dress himself up very nicely too. His hair and was slicked back. It's further described further down in one of these books. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was coincidentally Gadadhar Pandit's spiritual master too. In other words, Srimati Radharani's father was a spiritual master. So how does the story go? The story is that Pundarik Vidyanidhi decided to visit Puri, where Lord Chaitanya was, with all his associates. And one of those associates was Swarup Damodar. Now, Swarup Damodar was a sannyasi, and he was extremely close to Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. And Swarup Damodar used to sing these ecstatic kirtans. And Lord Chaitanya would only listen to his kirtans. Even the name of Swarup Damodar used to make him dance. Lord Chaitanya would only dance to Swarup Damodar's kirtans. In fact, one day the kirtans were so good by Swarup Damodar that Lord Chaitanya went into a trance and actually fell into a well. So there's a well, he fell into it, and everybody like screamed and yelled. It was just like when Lord Krishna jumps into Kaliya Lake and everybody starts fainting. Well, this time Lord Chaitanya falls into a well, and so everybody's screaming, and Advaita Acharya is there. Advaita Acharya, as you know, is an incarnation of Lord Shankar, Shiva, and also partially Lord Vishnu. He also bends down and put his head on his head like this. Oh, what's happened? Anyway, the story goes that the water in the well becomes so soft, like buttercream, that not a scratch is made on Lord Chaitanya's body. But Lord Chaitanya, like a child, is floating in the well. So nothing, there was no harm. But he was still in a trance while in the well, simply by listening to the kirtan of Swarup Damodar. That's how high a sannyasi he was. Anyway, they managed to pull him out. Now, Swarup Damodar was like a long time ago friend of Pundrik Vidyanidhi. So I'm coming to the humility part. So Pundrik Vidyanidhi and Swarup Damodar were mates, best mates. And this is in the Lord Chaitanya's pastime. So what happened is they are in Puri, where Lord Jagannath deities are there. And Lord Chaitanya would go there and darshan and fall into a trance and go into prema, display all these ecstatic symptoms. Anyway, this particular festival was there at that time, and in this festival, they dress up Lord Jagannath's deity in these starched clothes. So his clothes are not washed. Like, as you know, when you go and buy, sometimes I buy the saris and they feel like cardboard. There's so much starch there. You have to wash it like 1,000,000 times before it becomes soft enough to wear. So Lord Jagannath's outfit was also like starched. And anyway, they would change his outfits to so many colorful outfits, and they just would put it on Jagannath. So every day they'd go and darshan, and this festival would go up till Makranti. What was it? Anyway, one of those Makara Jayanti, is that called? Anyway, Sakranti, Makara Sakranti. Up till then, so every day they'd go and darshan. So this particular day, I'm coming to the humility part. This particular day, they went and darshan. Lord Chaitanya went home with all his associates, and only 2 people were left behind. That was Swarup Damodar and his best mate Pundrik Vidyanidhi. And these 2 were discussing about the day's events, and then the topic went on to Lord Jagannath's outfits. And Pundrik Vidyanidhi said, why are the pujaris, the Brahmins, dressing Jagannath in such terrible clothes, which has got, the clothes were beautiful, but he said it's got starch in it. It's not washed, and starch is contaminated. He said it's okay if Jagannath wants it like that. So he wasn't criticizing Lord Jagannath, but he was criticizing the Brahmins and the pujaris. Who touches this starch must immediately go and wash his hands and have a shower because they are contaminated. How can they put these contaminated clothes on Lord Jagannath? So he was kind of criticizing the Brahmins and the pujaris in a heavy way. So Swarup Damodar tried to, take a practical, diplomatic approach and said, no, don't say that. It's fine. Anyway, towards the end, he was quite determined, Pundrik Vidyanidhi. In that regard, there are some devotees who are quite fanatic. They exist. They say, nitpicking. I've got this devotee who always comes and gives me positive feedback on when I give a class or when I sing the kirtans. This devotee will say, I'm giving you some positive feedback. Do it like this because you didn't do it like that. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, if I did it your way, then it would be your class. It wouldn't be my class. Not that this is my class, but I do have an approach to it. So, everybody does. We can't think like the other person. In other words, I can't think of like that other person, so I can't deliver my class like that other person. This person also said to me, you are singing the kirtans. You've said Radharani's names too many times. You are singing about Radharani. You can't do that. In GBC, the GBC rules are there that you can't take Radharani's name without Lord Krishna. I'm like, okay, so in my kirtan I sing 5 names of Krishna, therefore I must equal 5 names of Radharani together. And, going into splitting hairs. it's fine. In Radha Ashtami, we sing Radharani's name so many times. We don't equal it to Lord Krishna's names to match. There's one Radha to one Krishna in the kirtan. That can get really confusing. So I didn't say anything. I kind of, the way to handle it is just disappear from there immediately, just dissolve. So I said, I'm sorry, I've got to go somewhere. Thank you for your kind association. Bye-bye. So you got to do that sometimes in order to get away from these sticky situations. Anyway, that's fanaticism. But to cut a short story short, here is with Pundrik Vidyanidhi also saying the same things to the Pujaris, Brahmins. They shouldn't put starch clothes on Jagannath. And that night, anyway, they went to sleep. That night, Lord Chaitanya decided to teach Pundarik Vidyanidhi a lesson. He came with Lord Balram, and Lord Chaitanya took the form of Lord Jagannath and slapped Pundarik Vidyanidhi in his cheeks. Not just one, quite a few. And Lord Balram also. And in the dream, they were slapping Pundarik Vidyanidhi in his cheeks and became red and swollen. And Pundarik Vidyanidhi by that time started crying. And in his humility, he fell at Lord Krishna or Lord Jagannath or Lord Chaitanya's feet and said, please forgive me, please stop. And that time, Lord Chaitanya gave him a good lecture. He said, how dare you criticize my Brahmins, my Pujaris? I have already set up a system where this is what I want. You don't go around changing that. This is my desire and these are my devotees. How dare you criticize them? Let them do what they're doing. This is by my wish, my will. So don't go and change things to have it your way. So something like that. He said, it's quite good. I was going to read it out, but I don't have enough time. But if you want to have this reference, read it. It's Chaitanya Bhagavata Antya Leela 3.10. Chapter 3.10. Anyway, then Pundarik Vidyanidhi woke up after that, after receiving that lecture. Of course, in that lecture, he apologized. He said, I'll never make this mistake again. I'm sorry, please forgive me. It was my mistake. Actually, Pundarik Vidyanidhi is a very, very high-level spiritualized person. He didn't have to do this. So, in this book, it says Lord Chaitanya had arranged for Pundarik Vidyanidhi temporarily he planted that seed so that he would have this pastime. So, it's not in his nature. It is not in Pundarik Vidyanidhi's nature to do this. It was simply an arrangement, just a temporary arrangement by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He planted that seed and put him in illusion, temporary illusion, so that he would do this. So then he woke up, and guess what? His face was really swollen, red, cheeks were swollen, and there were finger marks on his cheeks, like for real. Like sometimes we have these dreams and, we think somebody slapped us. Or we've gotten hurt. And we wake up and the sting of that hurt, that whatever it is, injury, is there when we wake up. But there are no marks. But in Pundarik Vidyanidhi's case, there was a mark there. So then, in the morning, the Swarup Damodar, his best buddy, comes to see him because they have to go to Puri, to Jagannath temple, to darshan Lord Jagannath. So when Swarup Damodar came, he said, how come, what's happened to your face? And then Pundarik Vidyanidhi explained what happened. He said, I've got marks on my face. I can't go out in public. I'm sorry. I'm not going to the darshan. Not today. When this, swelling comes down, when the finger marks go, then I'll come. But what is the reaction? This is another important thing. Pundarik Vidyanidhi considered himself to be extremely fortunate that he got a slap from Lord Chaitanya. He said, Lord Chaitanya, in the form of Krishna, he never chastised his own children like this. But he thought I was important enough to get, slapped. I mean, imagine if you get the touch of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Can you just imagine the Lord Chaitanya in reality, in person? He touches you, even if it is in the form of a slap. So a pure devotee won't actually take that as an offense. He was extremely humbled. And that's what the part I was coming to is humility. Krishna decided to teach Pundarik Vidyanidhi some humility. At the same time, he decided to cut back on some of the fanatic tendencies that he was, artificially developing. Swarup Damodar also was ecstatic when he heard. He praised Pundrik Vidyanidhi for his spiritual status and said, "You're so lucky. I mean, if your best mate heard that you were slapped by someone, what would they do? They'd get really angry and they'll plot some revenge on the person who's slapped you. But in this case, they were both feeling ecstatic. Haribol, Haribol." Anyway, so that's a very lovely story that I happened to come by. I was thinking, have a story. I'm actually reading parts of Chaitanya Bhagavata at the moment. So bits and pieces here and there, and I came across this story and I thought, let me share this. So some of these ingredients, this is for devotional service. Now, Pundrik Vidyanidhi is a surrendered soul. And he's already surrendered. He already is doing devotional service. He's already got a service attitude. He's got all of those things. What he didn't have was, whatever it was that he was lacking, Lord Chaitanya decided to complete it. I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that I carry that which you lack, and I preserve the things that you do have. So maybe Pundrik Vidyanidhi was lacking something. So Lord Krishna decided to slap him and fix it. I have also got the conclusion of this, what happens when we do acquire devotional service. So say that you are successful in chanting and hearing and purifying yourself, developing compassion, having service attitude, you are humble, you are surrendered. Say you've got all of those ingredients, which equals devotional service. So what is the result? I'm going to read to you, because I can't remember off the top of my head, so I'll read it out to you. It is in the Bhagavad Gita, and it is spoken by Lord Krishna himself, and I always love to quote Lord Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, because that really means, that's basically law, that's what we follow, but it kind of reinforces what we already kind of understand. But this is like so much in Lord Krishna's words. So what does he say? Let me go to that place. It is chapter 11, text 55. And he says, chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita, text 55, Mat karma krinmat paramo mad bhakta sangha varijataha nirvaira sarva bhuteshu ya samam eti pandava. What is the translation? The translation is, he says, my dear Arjuna. This is actually the conclusion of this devotional service. What's the result if you do acquire all those things? He said, my dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. And that is really the goal. We want to have a devotional service because we don't want to be born again. We want a devotional service so we can go to Lord Krishna permanently, on a permanent basis. So we get a permanent job, basically, in Lord Krishna's kingdom, where he is, and we never come back. And whosoever manages to get the opportunity of pure devotional service, he certainly goes to Lord Krishna, and he confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, text 55. So this comes back to answer Parikshit Maharaja's question on devotional service. When we are on the threshold of death, what should we do? Firstly, decide you don't want to come back. That's there. It's not negotiable. I mean, if you want to enjoy your senses, you could do some pious activities and worship some demigod, and you can get a result. You can go to the demigod's planet. You can enjoy your senses, but you can also you only enjoy for a while. It's temporary. You will still have to give up your body. Now, if you are in that planet of opulence, you kind of forget Krishna. So you kind of fall down, further down. Instead of elevating up, there is always the risk that you will fall down. Due to the opulence and the material enjoyment, there is an absence of Lord Krishna. There is a chance, obviously, you can transfer to go above also. So you kind of go from one planet to another, higher planets, and eventually end up at Vaikuntha. You could go gradually and end up back to Godhead, or you could take a dive down and you could end up on planet Earth. I mean, you could do that. But if you don't want to, and that takes a while, okay, I don't know how many millions and millions of years, so many yugas it can take. So if you want to go directly, you don't want to pass any of those heavenly planets. You want to go straight. Then you do bhakti to Lord Krishna. In order to do bhakti for Lord Krishna, you got to chant. Lord Chaitanya, he came 500 years ago. He is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, we understand. He came, apart from the main thing that he wanted to enjoy, like Srimati Radharani on the holy names of the Lord. She wanted to feel the love that Radharani feels. That was the main reason. But he also came to teach us a lesson, because we are basically very foolish and stupid. We don't know. We get into these messes, in predicaments, in all kinds of suffering, and we don't know how to take ourselves out of it. So he came to actually tell us how to be a devotee. So the Lord became a devotee of himself to teach us how to be a devotee. So we learn from Lord Chaitanya how to be a devotee, but he tells us the idea, the secret of bhakti is basically in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that's what we have to do if we want devotional service. In order to go back to Godhead, we don't take birth. So it all starts off with chanting. Chanting, why? Because it will purify your heart, your senses. Your senses are not meant to be enjoyed for yourself. As soon as you start enjoying for yourself, you get into all this mess, predicaments, and you start suffering, and you get old age. And then the more you try to enjoy your senses, the deeper you get into it. And then before you know it, there's a body waiting for you at the end of this life. And say goodbye to Godhead. Goodbye to your ticket back to Godhead. So chanting is important. Once you get purified, of course you've got to chant without offense. There are many of us, when we start off, I started off, I didn't know much about chanting, and you've got to read up, what is all about chanting with offense. Like the other day I was chanting, I had to get, it was my instruction from my spiritual master. My health was not so good. So he said, chant as much as possible. And I said, okay. So somehow the other, I managed to come to the temple, and I was going around and around Tulsi Maharani, and really trying to focus on my chanting, because it came from my spiritual master. I chant. And it works, by the way. You might think, how does chanting help my health? I mean, shouldn't I go to the doctor? Of course you should go to the doctor. Get your medicines. It's important. I did that too. But you need some divine help. You need some extra strength. Lord Krishna promised in Kali Yuga that he will be present in his names. We already know that, how